Hello, welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I am Muneeb Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the top stories first. Pakistan has recorded its highest daily death toll in months with 105 fatalities and over 2,700 infections overnight. The country's death toll has topped 9,000 while infections tally has surged to over 445,000. In the United States, over 303,000 people have died from the disease and more than 16.7 million have contracted the virus so far. India's death tally has topped 143,000 with the country's caseload approaching 10 million. Globally, the virus has claimed over 1.6 million lives and infected over 73 million. A high-level Taliban delegation have arrived in Pakistan to discuss the Afghan peace process with the country's top leadership. Foreign Office spokesperson says the delegation will meet Prime Minister Imran Khan and Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi. Taliban say problems faced by traders and refugees will also be discussed during the three-day visit. In India, protesting farmers have blocked the border between Delhi and Noida to press for their demands. Tens of thousands of farmers have been protesting for the last 21 days against the controversial farm laws they say favor big corporates. Eight people have died when a passenger van fell into a deep ravine in Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. Rescuers said 5 injured people have been shifted to district headquarters hospital in Abbottabad. And in football, Real Madrid beat Atletico Bilbao 3-1 to move level on points at the top of La Liga. Karim Benzema scored twice to win the game for Real Sociedad, Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid are all tied at the top of the Spanish league with 26 points. Well, these were the top stories. News in detail after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back now. Let's have the news in detail. Pakistan has recorded its highest daily death toll in months with 105 fatalities overnight. The Health Ministry says the country's death toll has climbed to 9,010. The ministry reported 2,731 new infections in the past 24 hours. It said currently there are more than 48,000 active COVID-19 cases in the country. Out of over 445,000 countrywide cases, more than 388,000 people have recovered. The ministry said over 198,000 cases have been detected in the Sindh province, while Punjab has reported nearly 128,000 cases. The United States has recorded more than 303,000 deaths from the coronavirus and 16.7 million cases. In India, the virus has claimed 144,000 lives and infected almost 10 million people. Globally, there are more than 1.6 million deaths and 73 million cases. More about coronavirus in this report.
Even though coronavirus vaccines are being rolled out, 1 in 4 people globally may not get them until 2022. Researchers say rich countries with less than 15% of the global population have reserved 51% of supplies. In the U.S., vaccines have been delivered in all 50 states and Moderna's candidate is set for regulatory authorization this week. Canada will receive tens of thousands of doses of Moderna's vaccine by the end of the year. Meanwhile, Argentina says the U.S. pharmaceutical giant Pfizer brought up unacceptable conditions during vaccine negotiations.
Se nos pidió una ley que le diera eso.
We were asked for a law that would provide immunity. The law was in Congress and it then later appeared in the negotiations with Pfizer as well. It was never from residents, but Pfizer said it was with us. It said that the previous law wasn't sufficient enough, so there would have to be a new law, and also that the contract was not to be signed by me, but the president himself. Truthfully, they are somewhat unacceptable conditions.
Over in Europe, shopkeepers in the Netherlands are struggling to cope with the new lockdown during the busiest time of the year. In France, a second national lockdown in Paris has now been transformed into a curfew after new cases were down. London has moved into the highest tier of restrictions to control rising infection rates. Meanwhile, scientists are trying to find out if the rapid spread of a new variant in southern England is linked to key mutations detected in the strain.
So people must have looked at this N501Y mutation and looked at where the mutation has occurred and tried to predict how much that would have changed the protein shape. And it sounds like they figured out that, in fact, it won't change it that much. So the vaccine-induced antibodies to the S protein should still bind to it.
South Korea has hit another record of daily infections with over 1,070 cases. And Japan's Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga has drawn criticism for joining end-of-the-year social gatherings after imploring residents to avoid them. While Australia has reported its first local coronavirus case in nearly 2 weeks after an airport worker tested positive.
Meanwhile, the Pakistani army says 2 of its soldiers have been martyred in unprovoked Indian firing along the line of control. In a statement, the military's media wing said the Indian side suffered heavy casualties in retaliatory fire. On December 10th, 2 personnel of the Pakistani army were martyred after a heavy exchange of fire with the Indian forces. Pakistan has time and again urged India to respect the 2013 ceasefire agreement and allow UN military observers to play their mandated role as per UN resolutions. The Indian government has intensified efforts to change the demography of occupied Kashmir. In its latest assault on the Muslim-majority status of the region, Delhi has identified 25 acres in the Budgam district to set up a colony for Indian soldiers. India has already introduced new domicile and land ownership laws to pave the way for Indian Hindus to grab land in the territory after revoking its special status. Since 2014, the RSS-backed Modi government has left no stone unturned to convert the Muslim majority of IOJK into a minority. Experts believe that the Modi government wants to settle members of extremist Hindu organizations. Now, in a bid to force local Kashmiris to give up their ongoing freedom movement. Now, in India, protesting farmers have blocked the border between Delhi and Noida to press for their demands. The deadlock continues, with New Delhi refusing to show any flexibility regarding its agricultural reforms. Farmers declared December 20 a day of homage to mourn people who died of different causes during the agitation. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Modi accused the opposition of misleading and instigating the farmers. The Supreme Court will be hearing a plea directing the centre to ensure farmers' rights and reverse the new laws. Thousands of farmers have been protesting for the last 21 days to repeal the agricultural laws they say favour big corporations. Now, a high-level Taliban delegation has arrived in Pakistan to discuss the Afghan peace process with the country's top leadership. Foreign Office spokesperson said the delegation will meet Prime Minister Imran Khan and Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi. He said spokesperson said the visit of Taliban delegation is part of Pakistan's policy to reach out to key Afghan parties in the peace process. He said Pakistan will continue to support an inclusive and comprehensive political settlement for durable peace, stability and prosperity in Afghanistan and the region. Taliban say problems faced by traders and refugees will also be discussed during the 3-day visit. Moving on, Saudi Arabia has reaffirmed its support to Pakistan on all regional issues. Saudi envoy Nawaf Saeed Al-Malki called on Pakistan's Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa in Rawalpindi. The two sides discussed regional security and bilateral defence cooperation. Saudi Arabia and Pakistan have long maintained a strong strategic relationship over the decades. They have worked together very closely within the framework of several bilateral, regional and global forums, which includes the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Pakistan is observing the 6th anniversary of the horrific attack on Army Public School, Peshawar. On this day in 2014, 132 children and 17 staff members lost their lives in a blatant act of terrorism.
In Pakistan, wounds of the Peshawar school attack reopen each winter. It was the world's 4th deadliest school massacre. Taliban Pakistan, a proscribed group, claimed responsibility for the assault. Recalling the horrific incident, the country's top leadership paid homage to the innocent victims. The Speaker of National Assembly, Asad Qasser, said, "No religion allows killing humanity." He said the sacrifices of martyrs did not go wasted. Terrorism has been rooted out of Pakistan. After the attack, that Pakistan's parliament unanimously passed National Action Plan, spelling out specifics to counter terrorism in the country. A number of activities are being held across the country today to remember the sacrifices of the innocent children.
Also today marks the 49th anniversary of fall of Dhaka. New Delhi-sponsored terrorists inside East Pakistan breached international borders and waged an unwarranted war to dismember Pakistan. December 16, 1971 marks the day when India, jingoism and expansionism led to the disembowelment of Pakistan's eastern wing and the creation of Bangladesh. India and its spying agency RAW helped cross-border infiltration of its spies and troops in violation of international law and provided safe havens to terrorists against Pakistan. Several books have been written about India's clandestine intervention in Bangladesh since its inception. 24 years after its independence, Pakistan had to make a choice of extending a never-ending streak of bloodshed with innocent lives at stake, or to make the bitter decision of letting go of its eastern wing in favor of regional peace and stability. The European Union says dozens of Palestinians living in a sensitive part of East Jerusalem are at risk of eviction. This comes after an Israeli court gave rulings that the homes of Palestinians are built on land belonging to Jewish settlers. In a statement, the EU's representative in Jerusalem said Israel must reverse these rulings. The representative said Israeli court struck down similar appeals in November. This put 77 Palestinians at imminent risk of forced transfer. Palestinians dispute the claims in the Sheikh Jarrah and Batan al-Hava neighborhoods. Most countries regard Israeli settlements on the land captured in 1967 as illegal under international law. Now, a technical meeting on critical reforms of the Libyan economy has concluded in Geneva. In a statement, the UN mission in Libya says participants agreed to take steps for functional unification of Libyan institutions. It said they also agreed to unify the exchange rate to ensure greater stability of the Libyan currency and combat corruption. They also welcomed plans to address the banking crisis and ensure nationwide access to liquidity. The participants agreed to meet again in January to review progress on these issues and consider further steps. Meanwhile, the Security Council has approved the appointment of Bulgarian Nikolai Mladenov as the special envoy for Libya. Norwegian Tor Wennesland has been picked as the Middle East envoy. The International Rescue Committee warns that Yemen is at most risk of humanitarian disaster in 2021. In a statement, IRC said conflict, widespread hunger and collapsing aid mechanisms can worsen the situation. IRC officials say the world has turned its back on Yemen as it faces an unprecedented threat. The aid agency said Yemen has never before faced so many simultaneous challenges. A United Nations report says that 80% of Yemen's 30 million population needs some form of aid or protection. The humanitarian crisis watch list for 2021 includes Afghanistan, Syria, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Venezuela and Mozambique. Moving on now, the US has designated the Bahrain-based Saraya al-Mukhtar group as a terrorist organization. In a statement, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said the group plotted attacks against US personnel in Bahrain. Pompeo said the group posed a significant risk of committing acts of terrorism that threatened US national security. He said the organization received financial and logistic support from Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Pompeo said the designation sends a clear message to Iran that U.S. will not allow its proxies to be threatened in Bahrain and American personnel stationed there. Bahrain hosts the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet as a regional security bulwark against Iran. In a statement, the Foreign Ministry of Bahrain welcomed the move. More news coming up in this bulletin after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back now. Some reluctant world leaders have congratulated U.S. President-elect Joe Biden on his win. The long-delayed acknowledgement comes after the Electoral College formalized Biden's victory. In a letter to Biden, Mexican President López Obrador praised his triumph, recognizing his position in favor of migrants. Acknowledging the loss of Trump, Brazilian President also extended his best wishes to Biden. Key Trump ally and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell also joined several Republicans in acknowledging Biden as president-elect. Meanwhile, January Senate runoffs will decide who controls the 100-member House in the U.S. Congress. In the French city of Nantes, hundreds of people have clashed with police during a demonstration against the contentious security law. Police used tear gas and water cannons to disperse the demonstrators. The country has been hit by a wave of street protests after the government introduced a security bill in the parliament. It set out to its surveillance tools and restrict rights on circulating images of police officers in the media and online. Protesters have slammed the law as repressive and aimed at curbing freedom of speech and expression.
I'm
here to fight for everyone's freedoms because I fear we're in a full authoritarian drift now with the government's measures and this repressive law, which has no other use than harming freedom and certainly does not guarantee anybody's freedom.
Well, French President Emmanuel Macron's ruling party has pledged to rewrite the article, but protesters demand complete scrapping of the law. Now, moving on to China, which has urged Britain to abandon its double standards about Hong Kong-related issues. In a briefing, a foreign ministry spokesman said the UK must respect the norms of international relations. Wang Wenbin said China and Hong Kong are under the rule of law and no one has extra legal privileges. He said public security ordinance during the British colonial rule imposed strict restrictions in Hong Kong. The spokesman said London is interfering in Hong Kong's affairs under the pretext of democracy, undermining the rule of law. Earlier, UK Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab said China's new law breaches the Sino-British Joint Declaration. Now, a man who murdered 9 people after contacting them on Twitter has been sentenced to death in a high-profile case that has shocked Japan. Takahiro Shiraishi, dubbed the Twitter killer, was arrested in 2017 after body parts were found in his apartment. The 30-year-old admitted to murdering and dismembering his victims, almost all of whom were young women. Shiraishi used Twitter to lure suicidal women to his home, saying he could help them die. His lawyers argued that he was guilty of the lesser charge of murder with consent. They claimed his victims had given their permission to be killed. The serial killings triggered a debate over how suicide is discussed online. Well, now in Pakistan, 8 people have died and 7 others injured when a passenger van fell into a deep ravine in northern Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. Rescuers say the vehicle with 14 people on board was headed for a funeral in Bandi Mera. Witnesses say the accident took place after the driver lost control of the speeding vehicle. Police said the wounded and dead bodies have been shifted to District Headquarters Hospital, Abbottabad. Britain's Queen Elizabeth II has recognized a Pakistani charity founder with the Commonwealth Points of Light Award. It recognizes of Hamza Farooq's efforts to provide clean water to local communities in Pakistan. British High Commissioner to Pakistan, Dr. Christian Turner, presented the award to Farooq at a ceremony in Islamabad. Turner said he is delighted to honor Farooq for his exceptional voluntary service. Farooq's charity serves over 45,000 people across 13 remote Pakistani villages. Now, Britain's Prince Harry and his wife Meghan will produce and host podcasts for Spotify's streaming service. In a statement, Spotify said the podcasts will be released later this month, starting with a holiday special. It said the couple's newly launched Occupied Audio will produce uplifting and entertaining programs for global audiences. Financial terms of the deal were not disclosed by the music streaming giant. The deal is the latest move by Harry and Meghan to make a living outside the royal family. The couple moved to Southern California with their infant son, Archie, after stepping back as senior royals in January. Now in Brazil, over 92,000 turtle hatchlings have been born on a sandy beach along the Purus River, which is a tributary of the Amazon River. Details in this report.
Tens of thousands of giant South American river turtle hatchlings have emerged on a beach in Brazil. According to Wildlife Conservation Society, the births have occurred over several days. Approximately 71,000 hatchlings emerged on one day alone, followed by another 21,000 a day after.
Mass births occur when the hatchlings are born in sync and can reach the river together. In this walk, the greater the number of hatchlings that take place together, then the greater the chance of survival, and the possibility of being eaten by predators is diluted. Hatchlings and predators in the river are not lacking.
The mass births took place in the Abufari Biological Reserve, where Wildlife Conservation Society has been monitoring females and their nest before, during and after the birth of the hatchlings. The Wildlife Conservation Society is also studying the conditions for mass hatchlings to help improve the management and protection of turtles.
The Wildlife Conservation Society Brazil team has been monitoring these species during spawning and mass birth to understand under what circumstances these events take place and how can we better manage, protect and conserve these species.
The giant South American river turtle is the largest freshwater turtle in Latin America, weighing 200 pounds and reaching lengths of 3.5 feet. The species of the giant South American turtle is becoming endangered after an increase in trafficking of their meat and eggs.
Now in Seoul, a cat cafe allows visitors to cuddle up with around 130 feline friends. Some dressed up in Santa costumes are ready to wish people a meow cat mass. Details in this report.
Park Seo-young opened the Cat Garden Cafe in 2016 to rescue abandoned cats, a situation which has worsened during the pandemic. Officials say the number of abandoned pets increased by 3.7% in the first half of 2020 as compared to last year.
With many people staying at home, more people are adopting cats. But at the same time, more people abandon pets as the coronavirus situation worsens. Whenever I hear about such news, it really hurts me.
The cafe itself was hit by the coronavirus. It used to have about 100 visitors a day, but that has recently dropped by about a third. But visitors say it is still a source of visual gratification, with some of the cats donning Santa outfits. They say the emotional respite from cuddling the feline fur balls is a much-needed escape from coronavirus anxiety.
Especially this year, it is hard to feel the festive atmosphere, but it was great to see cute cats wearing Santa suits and feel like Christmas is nearing.
Park says a special feast is on the cards for the feline Santas over the festive period, a chicken breast party.
Well, that's cute now. With catwalks closed because of the coronavirus pandemic, French luxury fashion house Saint Laurent is taking social distancing in its stride. Find out how in this report.
There were no spectators, no influencers, and no fashionistas at Saint Laurent presentation of its 2021 women's summer collection. Only drone footage of models walking on the crest of a tall dune in the middle of a honey-colored desert. It revealed its latest collection designed by Anthony Vaccarello with a 10-minute fashion film called I Wish You Were Here. Models walked along a ridge of fire burning on the dune's crest, the flames reflected in the evening sparkle, gold embroidery, and Claude Lalande designed jewelry. Looks included sheer halter dresses, a gold and black brocade jacket, and a cycling shorts with a black suit. Many models sported Yves Saint Laurent branded mini belt bags to match. As night fell over the desert, Saint Laurent declined to reveal the location, only saying it was a desert in the north. Saint Laurent said the film was an invitation for escapism without specifying from what. From COVID-19 presumably, and from the year 2020.
Now, stocks in the Asia-Pacific are trading higher following an overnight bounce on Wall Street as optimism grew over the prospects of more stimulus. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index has added almost 1%. Mainland Chinese shares are trading up fractionally too. In Japan, the Nikkei 225 and the Topix Index have also advanced marginally. Meanwhile, South Korea's Kospi has gained close to 0.5%. Shares in Australia also traded in positive territory, with the ASX 200 up over 0.5%. Now in football, Real Madrid beat Atletico Bilbao 3-1 to move level on points at the top of the La Liga table. Karim Benzema scored twice to win the game for Real. Toni Kroos put Real ahead with a first-time low drive towards the end of the first half. And Kappa's equaliser in the 52nd minute was followed by Benzema's heading the champions back into the lead in the 74th minute. He then killed the game off by scoring his second, securing Real's fourth win in a row in all competitions. Real Sociedad, Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid are all tied at the top of the Spanish league with 26 points. And in Bundesliga, Borussia Dortmund beat Werder Bremen 2-1 to secure their first win in the 4 league games. The win moves Dortmund to 4th place in the German league with 22 points. Rafael Guerreiro's 12th minute volley put the visiting Dortmund in the lead. Werder's Kevin Moywold soon equalised with a powerful shot in the 28th minute to fizzle out the euphoria. Werder's goalkeeper Jiří Pavlenka conceded a penalty in the 78th minute after crashing into Manuel Akanji. Pavlenka blocked Marco Reus's spot kick but was beaten by Dortmund skipper on the rebound. And now let's have a look at the weather rates across the globe. And that is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news. Take care.